Under the snake, you go.
No. Oh, fuck. Look, listen, guys. That's it. I did it. So they would have heard the snake. Did you know that there are people who don't listen to music?
That's a weird segue. And
How is that a segue? It's the very first thing.
I was one of those people, and then I listened to music. It's like the Krabby Patty episode where Squidward doesn't like Krabby Patties, and there's a saying anyone that doesn't like Krabby Patties has never had Krabby Patties.
You might be somewhat mistaking what I mean, because I think children don't really listen to music. People don't really listen to music until they have control over it. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
But what I'm talking about is just just the example of one person from an anecdote on another podcast. I know that there is one person that exists in this world who avoids music like the plague. They do not listen to music ever, and they turn off all music in video games. They refuse to play games that don't have where you can't turn it off, and they can't watch movies or TV because of the music.
That goes beyond. That's mental retardation.
Yeah,
right?
it just strikes me as a person that you just shouldn't be around.
Yeah,
they're just not safe. They're not stable. They're not good for this world.
Yeah, they aren't a person, right? That being is closer to an alien than a person.
Well, we don't know what aliens are like, but yeah, sure, probably.
But aliens are really quite like music, because I imagine it's like, I don't know, like it's like listening to foreign music. I imagine, right? I think
they
probably be really weird.
I think they would like the Tron Legacy soundtrack. Aliens would.
That's really specific.
Yeah, but it would make sense if you heard it. In fact, you heard some just a moment ago of that Gamma Mail thing I showed you. That's the Tron Legacy soundtrack. I thought that's the kind of music aliens will hear that and be like, yeah, nice. Okay, that other thoughts came back to me. There was something that actually sprung to mind that's relevant when I brought up that strange topic, which is, why can't we give the dwarves headphones and then they can like listen to the jukebox music whenever or something? That's what I want, personally.
I don't see why there isn't just a headphones cosmetic anyway. That's normally like many other games that don't even bother with cosmetics end up doing a headphones cosmetic. Like,
well, yeah, I mean, there's headphones on the that Halloween mask. Speaking of which, no, I don't. I don't know. I had an idea though, aside from Deep Rock, because there's been. I don't know how to phrase this. Basically, probably can't talk about Deep Rock for 2 hours dedicated every week. If we're being perfectly honest with ourselves. No, we haven't been. We did discuss a while ago that we're not going to put ourselves in a box with the podcast. So you know, if I literally didn't feel like we had anything, we would be not doing it or doing something else. I want to say that, but for the most part, it's not actually as hard as Tyler thinks to have something to talk about. But if we were to deviate in any way, I would say, Tyler, how's Exoprimal? Are you even playing it anymore? Did you stop? Did you like that's bad enough already?
It was one of those games where you say already. I definitely spent probably like 20 hours within 2 to 3 days playing it. It was pretty non-stop, and I don't regret it because you mentioned it's not really the type of game that you would play for the story because it was very weird. Basically, it is a 2 teams of 5 players doing a PvE objectives. And whoever does it quicker gets to start the final objective quicker than the other one. That final objective could be another round of PvE, could be another round of PvP, or it could have like story elements where it's all 5 team or all 5 players as a team of 10 has to fight against a giga horde of like 3,000 raptors, like 4 carnotaurs, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it honestly, it is really hype and it feels really badass playing it. Like especially since I play Roblox, which he does like fuck all damage, but he just has a taunt and a giant shield, right? And that's his thing. And so I'm there fighting like 3 of the Carnotaurs because I've gained their attention and the horde of raptors, and I'm just literally like, the more enemies on your shield, the more you kind of like get pushed back and you have a jet behind you. and then you like shield bash and send them all flying. And that adrenaline, that pure fucking power fantasy, got me through a lot of the game. Just generally, that was really fucking fun and enjoyable.
It's very Japanese.
Very.
It just
I'm
doesn't.
not sure it is.
Just doesn't make any. Well, it's from Capcom.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense, any part of it, and that's what those games usually like. It's just like the story. It's just very bizarre.
The story. No, the thing is, though, is actually the story is the other part that got me through it, right?
Whoa.
Because it is genuinely quite good.
Well, the thing. Hold on, if you don't mind, the thing about that is, I actually agree with that from what I saw, because I played just enough to get a grip of what like the story premise was, right? And I actually thought that's actually a very good idea. I do not find their way of telling it engaging at all. Basically, I've played enough to sort of understand the concept, certainly. It just didn't grip me even like slightly. It didn't pull me away from anything that I'm already doing, but I saw like enough. Like, I think I understand it. I can't say I've played a lot of it though, not at all.
It is quite jank. Basically, as you do those missions, you have played the game, and eventually, once you've done like 5 of them, you unlock like the next part of the story, essentially. But on the way, you'd get all these like pieces of a puzzle, essentially, and you could easily not look at the story. I'm pretty sure you could actually just genuinely, you could just never pull out the story page that has like, I don't know, probably like 100 to 150 like things you'd click on and engage with the lore with. You could not do that, and you still get like regular cutscenes. But it is genuinely pretty solid, and I've actually really tried to engage with it, and it's been quite rewarding. The only issue is with the way the PvE works. There are missions that are story based, right? There's a character you meet pretty early on. Even you've met him, Harry. It's called Magnum. He's the Australian.
Yeah.
And he basically, there is a mission where you bump into him later on, essentially, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? Let's steal some data." And that's like one of the first missions where the AI is like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to be here, raising the stakes." And that's like the first time that it spawns like 2,000 raptors and like 2 Carnos. It's like, minimal survival chance. Good luck, essentially. Although it's really often not that hard. It's actually a very easy game. You're not really supposed to lose. There is no losing to the AI. It's losing to the other team. But it's cool and all, but it ages pretty poorly when, spoiler, he's not around anymore. Yet you still get put in those missions with him because other people are doing those missions.
That's
right?
really weird.
So because they're doing that story missions, and I think the opposite has occurred. I have played probably a mission further along the story than I should have. I'm pretty sure. Well, I think that's it. Like, because it loads you into a lobby with players, and if that lobby just happens to be a story one, then oh well. And it's a really weird mix of single player story, PvE, and PvP all in the same game. And it's really odd. It's really weird.
I've got to say, in general, I respect the concept of merging mechs and dinosaurs, and I respect the approach of like a hybrid between PvP and PvE. As in, I don't mean a literal hybrid, as in it's not a game that has both modes. It's a game that blends both. Like, it's a game that the main game modes, all of them blend PvE and PvP. Do they all do that?
Well, right. So the main one is always the same. There's different maps, but it's essentially the same. Where it's two teams on like the same place but a different dimension. And then once you've completed that, you then get sent to the next part where the other players are there. Unless it's a PvE mode. If you get the second part is PvE, then it doesn't. But it's often PvP, which it's then like escort the payload. That's the most common one, where the payload then meets their payload near the end, and you then have to fight each other. And you get like power-ups where each team would get like one of them at that point at different times, and where you can control a dinosaur essentially and spawn that and then destroy the ever-loving crap out of them. Like, the dinosaurs are OP. But limited time, and if they want to, they can use like their ults essentially to destroy it pretty quick. But it is pretty fun, pretty engaging, and obviously sometimes you join up together and then it's a whole thing, but that's normally story stuff. But it's really interesting, especially because when I'm engaging with the lore, it's not just mechs v dinosaurs. It actually explains what's up with the dinosaurs, huh? Like, what's going on there? Like, why is this AI summoning dinosaurs? And it goes into that, and I know the answer to it. I won't say it because I would genuinely.
Are you recommending this?
It. Yeah, I would. I mean, I think I would say it's more fun with friends, but to be honest, I played it on my own, right? Yeah, I mean, played it a little bit with you, but like a game.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. My player character was gorgeous, though. That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
bloody hell. I mean, it's still a dude, but you know, I was like, wow, this is a beautiful man I've created here.
Yeah, and then yeah, and it has like roles and that, like tank, offense, support, and all the supports are like female characters, but they're not actually female characters, but they're female mechs.
Yeah, so that I found very strange. I don't know how to feel about that. I just, I don't know why.
It's just very Japanese. It is very Japanese.
It is Japanese, right? Isn't it? It's very.
Yeah. When you heal, you're a female. That's kind of how it works. Although the sniper woman, that's a DPS, is also a female. So as you could tell by sniper woman.
What I'm wondering though is, what type of games? Is it a AAA game? And is it an Xbox exclusive? I'm not sure. I think it. Okay, seems like it is on PlayStation 5. It's just that Microsoft are making a pretty big deal out of it as like a new addition to Game Pass, which is actually the most. That seems to be almost a strategy where it's not actually that Microsoft are they're not really actually shutting out much from PlayStation. That's the thing. They're just putting so much on Game Pass instead.
Yeah, it's like,
in fact, hold on, because I don't.
It's for free on us. That kind of thing.
The thing with Microsoft trying to purchase Activision, which, as in trying to, is an operative word there because it had to go through the FTC, which is something FTC federal. The Federal Trade Commission. It was an entire court case. Not with legal repercussions, but it was still a case of that involved legal practices as in to decide whether or not it was okay for Microsoft to do that. It was basically about deciding if they could, and if they couldn't, then they just wouldn't. There wouldn't be any punishment. But it's not like they had done anything illegal. But it was just to make sure that the Trade Commission thought it was a good idea. But they went through. But then Microsoft still came to an agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. But I heard something that even then they're not going to be able to put it on Game Pass until 2025. But even then, they will do it. That's the strategy. They're going to have all the Call of Duties on Game Pass, and that's what will make it more attractive. Rather than being arseholes and like shutting out from they actually want to embrace every platform in a way, but they still want to offer the best deal. You know,
that's essentially how they won the court case, because the court case was about how them buying it might end up with a monopoly, and that all the games will be on Xbox, and it will limit the growth of the industry. But Xbox basically, or Microsoft basically said, if anything, it's going to get more used. We're putting it on systems that it isn't even on before. Like they were like, we're going to put it on I don't know, whatever other stuff is, like Steam Deck or some bollocks, right? They were like, it's going to be more available after we buy it.
Yeah, I mean, it does say something about how Microsoft's strategy isn't 100% centered on Xbox anyway, in a way.
No, it's not. It seems to be just about the games, really. Like, they instead of having the sales all be on Xbox, they'd rather just everyone buy it on everything, but essentially Microsoft is still getting the money.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah, they still get some money from people buying it on PlayStation. Yeah.
And if they own like most of all of the games that people play, which is kind of unlikely since they tend to botch it most of the time, right? They're not exactly the best head company, really, are they?
I'm glad that this doesn't not get talked about. The fact that Microsoft does kind of churn things up and like shit them out in a way, like studios and franchises. So I don't really know.
The biggest recent example being Redfall, a previously adored and revered company, being whatever that one is.
Well,
like the one that does.
That's true, but Microsoft purchased. Redfall was already in development before, before they purchased Bethesda. So that's really weird to like how you where you place the blame, because really I would blame Bethesda more so, even though Phil Spencer said that he basically took the blame for Redfall, even though it probably wasn't his fault. It is in a way because he should be looking over it, but
the people working on it were like, we need to stop making this. This is a terrible game. But then Microsoft was like, put it out anyway. I'm pretty sure that's what they ended up saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
this all leads into the theme of this episode, which is insider information. Although I did want to get onto one other thing before we move on to whatever the hell that means, which was actually, it wasn't anything particular. It was sort of my side, not my side of the Exoprimal thing, but my side of this idea, where I think when it applies, we could do something where we just talk about something that we've been playing for the first time, is what I mean. As in, we're not going to talk about the fact that we've been playing Borderlands 2, but if it's something that we've tried for the first time or finished recently for the first time, that's, I think, it's a very viable discussion. Possibly could even lead to certain recommendations, or the opposite. We might boycott some things.
I mean, obviously, I think we both definitely were intending on doing a podcast on Starfield when that comes out, right? That was always going to be a thing.
I want to do it, honestly, I want to do a Bethesda-focused discussion at some point. I mean, I saw something recently about, an Elder Scrolls 6 trailer being leaked. I couldn't actually find the trailer itself, so I don't really think it's true. There was just a screenshot that looked fairly convincing, but it was still like another announcement trailer basically, but it looked like it was more detailed. It looked like it was basically going to be the original announcement trailer, except more like that same thing of it just being like the Elder Scrolls 6, just the text there, possibly saying the title, and it was like panning through a city, but probably not even in engine. I don't know. The thing is about that is it doesn't really matter, because as far as we know, Elder Scrolls 6 is probably only just really starting development. So it's
probably only in the throwing around ideas phase.
No. I don't think throwing around. I don't think so. I mean, I might be wrong, but I can't.
They've been focused pretty hard on Starfield, and they're still working on it. And I assume by how things work, Starfield is really being quite shit at the moment, right?
That's actually a good point.
They delayed it a lot of times. They're really probably all hands on deck on making that game playable.
That's not a bad point, especially because throwing ideas around phase can actually apply to so much, because there's so much ground that you need to cover in terms of systems for a game like Elder Scrolls 6, where it's just like that. When you say that, you don't necessarily mean the setting. They've probably got that down, but there's so much more they need to throw around ideas for, like storylines and quest lines and spells and weapons and all that.
The longer they do that, the better. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The longer they're throwing around ideas, the less likely we're going to get anything close to Skyrim.
We don't want to spin off into that. Not really.
Well, I think, as mentioned, though, we could definitely go on about Skyrim. Obviously, that's not a new game we played, but it's definitely a game we could talk about.
Absolutely. It just needs to... There was another thing I saw, though, which was very, very odd, which, as it might be real, might not. Like, supposedly an insider report about GTA 6 and how that's coming along. In the sense of what it said, and I want to just, whatever you have to say, citation needed, take this with a grain of salt, whatever. We could operate under the assumption this might be true, that it's actually been in development since 2014, which is a year after GTA 5 released, which sounds really strange, because Rockstar strike me as the type of studio to not do that, because they just work on what they want at one thing at a time. Yeah, it would be Red Dead 2 after GTA 5. But maybe they, it depends on what you mean by development, because it's not like all of their resources. Actually, if that was true, it'd be a very small fraction of the resources. But also, then another part of this supposed insider report was it costing $2 billion, which would make it the most expensive entertainment product ever, which somehow doesn't strike me as that odd somehow. If it's true,
it's kind of weird that it's in dollars, considering Rockstar is set in Scotland.
Is it
right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Rockstar is a Scottish game company.
Rockstar Games is an American video game publisher based in New York City.
And I'm very wrong. Where did I get that from?
I don't even know how I would find that. I mean, you could look up Scottish video game developers. It probably wouldn't be that hard to find, actually. 40 plus, all J Studios. Wow, that's crazy. Bandai Namco, Epic Games, Ninja Kiwi. Oh, sick! That's awesome. Oh, I mean, fucking Bloons is awesome. What I was going to talk about, though, briefly, was what I've been playing, because I finished that game recently, Boltgun.
I just want to quickly put in Rockstar North is set in
it's set
in Scotland. In Dundee.
Oh, that sounds Australian,
so
mate.
There is a part of Rockstar that is set in Scotland.
Okay.
So
thanks, Tyler.
yeah,
Thanks for that.
I didn't make it up completely.
No, you didn't.
They're credited for making the GTA games.
Brilliant.
So I think it's these guys that make the GTA games, not the base one.
All right.
Maybe. The point is, move on.
Shut up, you idiot. Yeah, I played and finished Warhammer Boltgun, which is a really strange little like retro style shooter that I had to pay money for. Believe it or not, isn't that crazy? And it was worth the money. It's very odd because Warhammer is very odd. Warhammer feels like one of those things that you really can only get. You almost have to either have been with it from the beginning, or it has to have been one of your first hobbies, though, like your first hobby, and you just kept it as well. But what Boltgun is like, it's almost like something that anyone could like play and enjoy, which I did because I have literally no affiliation with the Warhammer franchise at all. At the same time, while it feels like something that's accessible to everyone, it doesn't feel like a gateway either. Like, it didn't make me even remotely interested in Warhammer. So I don't know if there's much of a ploy there at all. It was just a really good like shooter. Like, it was sort of felt like someone tried to take classic Doom and modernize it, but it's still classic Doom at the same time, rather than like the Doom, like the recent Doom games, which are full on reboots in a way, or requels, rebooted sequels, where it's like a completely different style. It's like, what if we just? It's very hard to describe, but you know, you probably can imagine what it looks like. It's like it's like pixelated kind of, but 3D environments. But then also like all of, like the items and enemies are like 2D sprites that sort of like shift around with your view. You know how like they sort of pivot like on a very bizarre. But you really settle into it, and it's quite good. And it's like, it might have been too long though, in a way. Whereas like it sort of ran out of like new stuff. Like there's like 3 sections, like 3 chapters. And chapter 3 had like 1 like new weapon, and that was it. And it didn't have much of a final boss either. But I would recommend it. And it's actually the truth of it is, it was like 14 quid, I think, £14, I should say. So you can translate it to dollars in case you don't know what a quid is. But the reason why I'd say it's worth it is because it objectively is. We're so poisoned by Game Pass being like, oh, we get this shit for free, that we forget that something like I'm trying to think of a good example of something that's been added to Game Pass recently, like a AAA game. It's actually not bad. And I can't.
You're playing with fire here.
Yeah.
I mean, well, technically, GTA was added to it like just the other day.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that it was like, you know, especially back in its time, even if it had less stuff then, but even back in its time of release, it was like objectively agreed upon worth like £60. No one would have batted an eye, right? And then we're just like completely cursed. But so, like, I can absolutely say that a game like Boltgun is worth £15, certainly. You know,
there's also a giant sale going on right now for like tons of games. It has like all of the CODs on sale, on like pretty big sale, except Black Ops 2.
What the fuck is the? Well, I mean, it doesn't have something to do with them knowing that Black Ops 2 has a different. It's almost like a different. Is it the most revered one? I think it's the most popular one, right? Definitely, right? I think people have there's a more critical praise for, like, I think the Modern Warfare, like Modern Warfare 1 and 2. But I think Black Ops 2 is the most like popular
Black Ops 2 the most people played. I think Modern Warfare was the most acclaimed. I think that's the difference. Not that 2 was bad, and not that the other one that didn't have enough people playing it on it. It's just that more often than not, the one that people grew up with was Black Ops 2.
Well, as far as I know, Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 2 are in general regarded as the peak, in sort of two slightly different perspectives though of what peak is. But those are like the peak of Call of Duty, which I
only went downhill.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, well.
It started going down.
But Black Ops 3 was probably better than Ghosts or Advanced Warfare, at least.
I mean, Advanced Warfare was horrific.
That was like the first one that I really got properly. Like,
Same.
Trying to get into COD, and I played the campaign like 5 times because I actually liked it at the time.
It had the fella on it as well.
It had the guy who actually people like censor his name in like videos. I don't know if you've seen this because they're like, he's not actually. Okay, I almost said something I shouldn't have said. He's not Hitler. That's what I'm saying. But we're comfortable saying Hitler. Although he's probably done worse than what I don't know. Hollywood people are weird, but that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the fact that random video got how many thousand views? What was that? 1.4 thousand. Yeah. Why? I don't understand. But at the same time, I have no problem.
It's the content. It's the content people like.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you people probably like this type of content. Anyone listening to it right now. But it is the does this work in this, or does this work at all? Like that kind of stuff. That's your
1.5K.
That's your meat of your deep proc videos, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That's your Reaper. That's your build videos. Like not your build videos. Your build videos are not that at all. But general build videos, where they're within 20 minutes or something like that, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know if I could. I don't know what to do about the build ones because, like, I like doing the long form gameplay part, but I do wonder if how much better they would do if it was just explaining the build. I don't know what because. And then would I have to show something of gameplay? I don't know.
Yeah, well, what I'm pretty sure Reaper does is he goes over the build, goes into a mission, and then he ends it. No, at the end of the mission, he's like, "Cool, that went well."
But that's the reason I can't do that is because it's like I can't do one mission. That's not enough. I have to do, I have to do at least two missions, and one of them has to have a mutator. That's a warning. That's my formula. For testing them, not even testing them. It's more like showing them off, and that's how I do it. I mean, something like what the spinning death thing is completely different because that's not a build. That was you could take the build if you wanted to and then run with it, but that was not the point even slightly. The point was literally just like, can you actually use spinning death against
show
this?
The mods, did you?
No, someone asked about that actually. Someone asked, and then I got back to them, by the way. Don't worry, Tyler, it's fine. Okay. Don't panic. And then someone responded to that person saying, "Oh, I think it's probably this." They said, I think they said 22211 was their guess, and then I responded to the original guy. I didn't respond to the guy who guessed because that would have been a bit like, "Oh, you got it wrong." That's the only reason I'm commenting because obviously it's not. But it was funny because he guessed 22211 when it's actually 11122.
Yeah.
Although I don't quite know how he got that because if he was trying to guess, he could have at least looked at like my maximum ammo and seen that was like the wrong guess. And the magazine size too.
There was something else that a comment mentioned. I can't quite remember it.
Is it just the one talking about how like you can do it better?
Yeah, well, it's like something was kind of invalid. No, not the satchel charge one, but it was like
not
I'm
the
sure if it was
satchel
that build video. It was just that was it. It was for your current your actual build video, your recent one with the tumors one, the blisters one.
I haven't actually looked at
and how fire rate is. He kind of mentioned how it wasn't that good of an idea because there's a 0.3 second cooldown on blistering. Like you're not allowed to do it in that amount of time.
Oh, that's actually worth noting.
I'm gonna pin that. Yeah and no.
Oh, okay. Why not? What's wrong with it?
I think that while that is true, it means you shouldn't. Once you made a blister, let go because it's a waste of ammo. Not that fire rate's a bad idea because fire rate just means that when you are using it, you do it quicker, right? So I think you just need to. As soon as the blister's down, there's no point in shooting. Essentially, if your only goal is to blister them, so wait a second or two, or not even that. Obviously, just wait a second.
If you're good, fire rate is actually still probably the better upgrade. If you're good, it would
get the blisters down quicker. But
also, I don't think that's true because I've noticed almost accidentally creating more blisters than I thought I would. At the same time, I have no reason to doubt what this guy's saying. As in, it feels like something that you wouldn't pull out of your ass. I'm gonna look at. Obviously, I always have Carl open. Okay, a 0.3 second cooldown between procs, as in procking a boil. Sure. I mean, that's actually not very. The thing is, that's not a long cooldown. Maybe that's why. No. It's like a third of a second. So.
But I think it does say once you get a blister down, just pull up for a second maybe because you're not getting any blisters down Well,
Yeah.
but like during that time, so maybe it's a waste of ammo.
Well, that was good though, because what I did the normal thing of what I normally do, which is play 2 missions. One of them has a warning on it. It almost always is an elimination as well. That is really weird, but that almost always happens because of my autistic obsession with making sure that builds work on every mission type. And I do that by showing this isn't a build that I made specifically for elimination, but it's good on it anyway. So I always end up doing elimination. Because that's the most specific mission type in terms of enemies, I guess.
Well,
No,
it does
with sabotage
really,
would,
right?
but it does with sabotage. I almost wave off a little bit, especially with this build where it's like that's probably the worst mission type for it because can't put blisters on robots. But what I did at the end, or what I try to do most of the time, is it's called the bonus round, where I just do a double warning, and it doesn't matter if I succeed or not. I chose against doing that this time. I think just because of the nature of what it gave me. I think it was an elimination, like 2 rotations in a row, and I was just like, already done elimination. Like I'm not doing that. That's just stupid. But what I did do instead was I thought this build is not weirdly good, but very good against like some of the random boss encounters. So I said, including Omen. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I don't know what the right word is. I guess churn through like tiny egg hunts, but not like churn through as in actually get through them, as in literally just jump in, see if there's a boss like a Betsy, Corlock, Corruptor, or an Omen, and if there isn't, I'll just exit out and then jump in again. And I kept doing that. I think I've got like a Betsy or maybe the 4th one, so I took that opportunity to completely annihilate Betsy. But the thing
I remember
is,
seeing a comment of that.
Yeah, and it was darn impressive. It was almost more impressive than I thought it'd be. See, that's way quicker than a Corlock, and it's a weird thing about Betsy actually that I sort of noted in the video, where it's like I wouldn't call her an equal. She's definitely got more firepower than you. But the point is, you are supposed to kill Betsy incredibly quickly because you can. In a lot of scenarios, and I think that's part of the reason why she's so strong. Like, a Corlock is nowhere near as lethal as Betsy, but it usually takes a lot longer to deal with at the same time. Like, Betsy is lethal as fuck, but under certain circumstances, you can obliterate her. Like,
Betsy doesn't have a immortality phase, right? That's the main thing. Most of the other bosses in the game. Yeah, but you're still not immortal. If anything, sometimes you should run in the shield and continue killing her in there. If there's no wall nearby, that's the safest place to be. It's I know it is. I think that's the point, right? She doesn't have an immortality point or immortality frames, unlike even the Corlock and obviously all the Dreadnoughts, Caretaker. This new, the Corruptor doesn't really have immortality bit either, but it's because he's mostly immortal, and then you kill him.
Got a different, it's a slightly different approach. I mean, the Corruptor is what I wanted to try because something you can do to a Corlock, and I don't think you can do this to the Omen though. But I think to the Corlock, you can put blisters on the outside of like the heart shell when it's invulnerable, and those will work as blisters once it becomes vulnerable. You can pop them, and it would do the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that could almost apply to Harold, where you could apply those blisters.
If you like had like 4 like drillers with the blisters, cover a Corlock in it, and then throw a satchel on it when it opens up, do you think that would just insta kill it?
That's what I'm thinking could be possible. Wait, did you say Corlock or Harold?
Corlock.
Corlock, yes, definitely. Assuming that I'm right, and I don't have a false memory of that happening. But yeah, the other one I mentioned was Omen, because like you can put blisters on an Omen for some reason, which I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying it's another one of those things where Ghost Ship's weird, like it's not double standard. It's not the right word, but their weird selective application of logic is coming into play. Where I don't agree with the fact that you can't put blisters on robots, because that just doesn't seem like a logical barrier to put.
I was gonna say that doesn't mean much, like it's probably just a matter of time. But then I realized, no wait, they would have added it at the same time, wouldn't they? They would have been like, yes, you can put the blisters, or no, you can't put blisters on rifles, and then allowed it on Omens.
Yeah, it's
right?
not an oversight.
It's not.
Well, actually, the Omens could be an oversight. Is what that could be an oversight, but the robots was a deliberate decision not to. But I'll take it. I mean, it feels good to put blisters on the moment. It's just strange that you can't do it to robots. And I even proposed like I guess you could call it a rework, but I don't think the way blistering necrosis works needs a rework. But I think the overclock itself could be changed in some ways. What I suggested was like, in fact, I think you might have said this before yourself, actually, just in terms of ways that it could be applied differently, because it hurts it so much that it's a percentage chance, and even then it's 10% per instance of damage. So I said, what if it was like every 10 hits on a single enemy instead, rather than a 10% chance? As in like 10 consecutive instances of damage will just spawn a blister. So you almost have to, like, you can guarantee it quite easily, but you have to focus on an enemy to spawn blisters. Possibly as like, I feel like that's almost immediately making it better than the percentage chance. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say better. Because as bad as the percentage chance feels, it does mean that there is a percentage chance that you could get blisters 10 times in a row. Right?
A percentage chance.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Is that good though?
Yeah, would it not be?
No, but sometimes you don't get any, and it sucks.
Exactly.
Would you? I thought your biggest problem was consistency anyway.
Yeah, I would say it is. But I would say that 1 in every 10 doesn't make it. I wouldn't say it makes it feel consistent. I think it would just make 9 of my shots not worth shooting.
That's true.
It would just feel kind of bad.
That's true. Can't deny that. Okay. Good point there, Tyler. That's not. I don't know why we got hung up on that. That wasn't the video I was talking about. Basically, I want to say that kind of video, the spinning death versus caretaker thing. I am no promises, right? But I think it'll be doable to do at least one of those per week. As in, we could easily bundle that into the Deep Rock stream.
During
so during tomorrow, that. Then. Yeah, and that's something that like I can just do anyway, but you can also easily come in for, even if you don't want to play Deep Rock. Either way, it doesn't matter, and I can do it on my own as well, and you would still be there for some kind of commentary. We could even have Tom. I mean, the last one was awkward because the audio was out of sync. I just hope we don't have that again. I really don't know what to do. Like, I want to be humbled, right? As in, I want some advice on how to fix certain audio issues. If anyone has anything, like any possible way to sort that out, feel free. It doesn't mean we're capable of it. I just want to point that out. But feel free to leave any potential solutions for any technical complications that you notice. I do not mind.
Ask the content creators Discord thing. I've seen other people ask about technical stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah, but my like autistic brain is like always like thinking up ways to make things last forever. So I'm just like, oh, what I could do engineer with no upgrades, double warnings, and I could do it for every class, and I could do it for every primary, secondary. That's sort of what my brain does, which is possible. I mean, a very basic one, and like for those, if we want to try and do those videos somewhat consistently, sort of the template idea would just be weird little challenges in game, like Randovisor double warning is a pretty obvious pairing, or just like really bad builds that for elimination on elimination, stuff like that. So that's sort of where I would
Carpet Bomber versus Dreadnought ?
That's not actually that bad. I mean, what would be Bullet Hell would be the worst probably. Burning Hell, actually, because no one would expect Burning Hell to be anything against Dreadnoughts, but it still works in some weird way, and I almost want to show that, just sort of weird shit that you probably shouldn't do, but you can do it anyway. That's what I sort of want to do.
Because I think that's what people liked about the Spinning Death one, in that people kind of like, yeah, I can see why you would try that. It doesn't seem like a good idea though.
No, and
I think you kind of made that point.
It wasn't. It was not a good idea. I mean, it didn't. I mean, obviously, no, it wasn't in the video, but that wasn't the only attempt. I just want to point out.
Yeah.
That was the second try, and obviously it
you
did work.
Do that one, right? Yeah.
What do you mean? What?
You did complete the second mission, didn't you?
I did win. I did it. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I'm almost forgetting. I should not be forgetting though. But yeah, I did, and I want to do stuff like that. I mean, I'm trying to think of more examples. I mean, it's probably not the time, but and I've already, I've got an idea for tomorrow anyway. But it's still interesting to think about. I mean, for example, what's like things that you could probably guarantee quite easily are certain things like when it comes to specific enemies, you can probably have a good chance of guaranteeing something like Mactera Plague or other presence, and obviously Lithphage Outbreak, and so you could conceive the worst possible build for those types of enemies. Although I don't quite know what the worst build for Rockpox would be, other than just like a really bad build in general, which would probably be like purely explosive engineer, where you would take like explosive chemical rounds and a grenade launcher, like spec'd into like AoE. That would probably be really terrible for Rockpox. So I don't know. Weird shit like that. In fact, not that this tends to pan out, but I'm still going to say it. Open to suggestions, basically. Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll mention that tomorrow, because especially if we get like a good number of viewers, like it could be like, what should I do? Maybe something like that. I'd love to do that. And also the Deep Rock streams do get viewers. I'd like the other ones.
Yeah, I mean that's why, I don't know, this might stem into a bit more, but I don't feel like playing Deep Rock, but I want to play Deep Rock.
That's absolutely fine. And you know, it's like I think there's almost a way of like forcing it that is actually good. I might need to explain a little bit more. It's like, as in, just do a very short window, but almost like a very short amount. It could even be one mission per week if you don't feel like playing it at all that week. But that could almost like work, especially if you do it for a daily challenge or one of these weird challenges I've set up. That's how I'd recommend. Like, it's sort of like a way of like, it's like forcing yourself, but it's not actually a lot. I don't know, but if you, whatever. And also, I can't exactly blame you, because we could touch on this if you'd like. Sort of, I don't know if I want to say the state of Deep Rock at the moment, but like, it does. There's this sort of weird vibe in the air of Deep Rock at the moment. I think where it's almost on a bit. I know I'm not actually worried, but I still find myself thinking about this. Where it does, you could almost say it's on a bit of a precipice, where between going downhill or not, basically. Where it's like there's an argument that it could almost be on the edge of doing that, which I couldn't entirely disagree with. And I think that's because we probably had one of the worst updates in terms of the effect, like the response to it, just before they disappear for a month. And the reason why I think
it feels like
it's fair to judge the current like mood, but it's also, you do need to keep in mind that could be flipped as soon as they come back, because they're not around at the moment, you know?
Yeah, well, it feels like, I don't know, like a scene in a movie where a car is like teetering off the edge of a cliff and it's just still.
Well, that scene in Fast and Furious 7 where like the you wouldn't know, but the bus hanging off the edge of a cliff and he's actually sliding off, and Paul Walker's in the bus and he climbs out like underneath like the edge, the side that's like facing down below, and he climbs around on the front of it and then runs up the bus while it's falling off the cliff, and he actually would miss landing on like land, but someone actually drifts round in a car and he grabs the spoiler. That's how he gets out of that situation. I don't know if that's a good analogy.
I feel like you just forced something there, Harry. But you know, I think you know what I mean. Just it's a staleness in the air of silence.
It's a stillness that didn't have as much comfort as usual leading into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why there's
normally it's
reason to judge at the moment.
It's a silence, but it's a silence that we know they're doing something in the background. We know they're not doing anything. Not that that's a bad thing, because you know, holidays, people, makes sense. But it's just you know, it's the fact that there's nothing going on, and it's not that it just sounds like there's nothing going on. It's that genuinely nothing is going on. So the game right now is exactly in the same state that it was like a month ago.
Yeah, right? Speaking of nothing going on, the summer event is once again not present. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I was sort of on the fence of surely it's like set to drop during their break, but I guess that I don't think so anymore. You said, you were like, oh, it's obviously they're going to drop it when they come back, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Which makes perfect sense.
They're very confident that they're doing it.
It seems to be done. But yeah, that's the thing. We've seen parts of it, right? We've seen small parts of it, so we know that it's going to be a thing. Like when they come back, I mean, it'll still be summer when they come back. They come back in August, so it's still summer, yes, but it's like delayed. And I guess, you know, because people probably aren't as concerned as we are. Not that we're concerned, we just know that they're not doing anything right now. So it's like, you know, for a lot of people, it's going to be like season 4 was maybe 2 months ago. Now they get a new event. Probably not going to think too much of that, and it's actually probably going to be good for a lot of people.
Another slightly concerning thing, which I would not expect many people to know, because that's actually something that I think only a couple people know, is we are not getting the roadmap with the summer event, unlike last year. Obviously, that, you know, summer event was a lot earlier last year, which, you know, says something about how quickly we got the roadmaps. But yeah, last year we got the roadmaps and the summer event. This time, first of all, the summer event looks like it's going to be like, what, a month late? Or a month later than last time. It's not late if it was never had an arrive date, I guess. But, you know, we're going to be getting it 2 months after the season. And we probably still won't be getting the roadmap 2 months after a season launched. Which looks like we're going to be getting the roadmap about as late as last season. Right? Or, you know, teetering more towards later than earlier, which is really concerning because
nice motorbike, bro.
Yeah, because it seemed like during season 1 and 2 they didn't need to wait any time for the roadmaps because they knew damn well what they were doing, right? Which was essentially the rivals and weapons, which, you know, fair enough, they did know what they were doing, but even then, going into season 3, I think we still got the roadmap fairly early on, right? Like, it wasn't that late.
We're going to do this again, are we? Looking at when it came out. Don't worry, I've got
gonna
Steam
look.
open. What do you mean we're not going to look?
You don't have to look. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that late.
Wait, what one are you talking about? You're talking about the season 3 roadmap.
Season 3's roadmap came out when we got the summer event.
That's true.
So...
Which was, let's have a look here. It was actually the summer event announcement. Which was June 13th, which is over a month ago in like relative to the year.
And when did season 2 come out then?
Season 2 was about a month and a half before that.
Okay, so even season 3, we got the roadmap a month and a bit after the one came out. So bear in mind, if we want to go with what occurred this time, in about a month of patching, it then took them half a month to then be confident enough to release the roadmap, even during season 3, which I assume you could still hear that motorbike. And that's pretty impressive, considering, you know, we would have thought they would have had to come up with Rockbox, but they already clearly kind of knew Rockbox was coming by the meteorite, right? Or like the thing coming in trajectory, and grenades. So, you know, and we always assumed that season 4, it took them ages to get the roadmap out because they genuinely hadn't worked on season 4 for ages. And then it got to the point where they might as well bring it out with the anniversary stream, right? I think that it was kind of like fair enough that it's really late because, you know, it makes sense. But there is no reason to hold back the roadmap this time round, right? I think if we get the summer event without the roadmap, which it sounds like is going to be the case, it's not because they don't feel like mixing them together, because there's no reason to hold it back. It's because they don't have a roadmap more than 2 months in.
When we look at those time frames that we just looked at, it's like, if we say we're living in a world where they didn't go on break, we would have probably the roadmap next week or something, based on the time.
Maybe, yeah.
Because of when season 4 launched. If we look at about a month and a half, it's actually, I think, fairly consistent for like roadmap releases, aside from the season 4 one. Which means if we factor in the break, I would say it would be. I don't factor in the break. Break is beginning of July, I think, right? Yeah, pretty much.
July,
which means I don't think they failed as long as we get the roadmap in August, basically. It doesn't have to actually coincide with the summer event.
It would be in August.
Yeah, it doesn't have to coincide with the summer event exactly. But I think if it's in August, then they've done okay. Honestly, you think about it, if the start of the break is actually at the beginning of July, and the fact that Season 4 released mid-June, you could still go up to the end of August and just about the beginning of September, and it would still actually match the time. So, and a September roadmap, like beginning of September, could still potentially allow for like a December release potentially, which is like maybe we want to be clear of that a little bit, because I mainly want to talk about some of the things that we actually do know a little bit about, just a little bit. Namely, not namely. Actually, this isn't the main thing. This is the main thing I've shown Tyler, and it's in the thumbnail. I could put it on screen. I don't know, but someone might have seen. It is weird that there's only one example of it. I don't know how this stuff comes about, really. And I hope we don't get some kind of cease and desist for showing this. But I don't think we will. I think that literally no, because the reason I'm talking about this is because Jacob commented on it and confirmed this was a real thing, and it stopped there. The post is still public, so as far as we know, it's fine to talk about this kind of thing, because leaks happen. Actually, it's been happening. It almost started this year, like quite a bit, because it's clear to me.
It's the first time they added content that far in advance.
Exactly.
Right?
Leaks always happen when this happens in every game when there's stuff already in the game. The reason why it doesn't happen much for Deep Rock is because there's not much in the game that isn't like the current thing. There's not very little in the game that is for the next thing. The only thing of that, apart from these event things, leaks that we've seen, the only thing aside from that is the Glyphid Stalker, and that's not a leak. That's just something that was just something that was cut from Season 4, but what was done of it is still in the code, basically. So that's not much of a leak. It could be considered a leak, given that it's pretty clear that they want to add it. So that will probably happen, but that's different. The holiday events has been a leak, and that applies to the anniversary DLC as well. That the anniversary DLC got leaked before time. And a lot of the events got leaked as well. Actually, I don't know if it was a lot. No, the Elf did last year, actually. I think you remember before the Christmas event, we saw the Elf.
Yeah,
and then
Elf got leaked, Bunny got leaked, and Halloween Skull, which is obviously still yet to get.
Well, no, I don't think that's the same. That stuff was actually, I think, a bit early in this year, around the time of the anniversary.
All the anniversary stuff was getting heavily leaked.
Yeah, obviously the Bunny was fine. The Bunny was like, okay, sure, that's actually the next event after the anniversary. But then it's like, that's Skull, though. That's Halloween, isn't it? Which was like, which sort of confirmed something to us that they kind of confirmed themselves anyway, was that they were taking a significant amount of time to work on these things, and that's why you have something like this strange clown mask being found as well.
Yeah, it sounds like, they even got the Halloween cosmetic out of the way at some point, right? Which, once again, I would argue leans on the fact that the cosmetic people had more time than anything, because they were able to come up with a cosmetic later in the year.
This another thing to sort of put that to bed again, like once again, for people need to stop complaining about that, because I think I would agree. Because I think...
Yeah, but I'm not sure if this is where you want to go with it. So many things have been leaked. 2 parts of Halloween has been leaked. Why hasn't anything to do with the summer holiday been inherently leaked?
Well,
maybe the steel drum. It was right.
Hold on, wasn't it all them though? Wasn't the steel drum them as well?
Yeah, the steel drum was them. They leaked it. But I'm pretty sure someone did find it in the code. Someone pulled the steel drum out.
Yeah, but no one found like the summer event like double XP thing, the double performance point thing. That hasn't been found either. So it's like weird. Like, are they almost better at withholding things that they're about to release? Is that what that means? I don't think
it's either that or the summer event. I don't know. It might not actually have something like that, or it's something that they couldn't come up with at the time, maybe. And then they'll have to do it like now or something. I imagine it got to the point where, like, okay, guys, we need to start working on Season 4, right? They probably didn't have all the time in the world, so they may have had to delay some things until they were needed. But I don't know. Yeah, I think we can assume the steel drum is probably going to be part of the summer thing, and I think if they know what's good for them,
well, Tyler, I want to say definitely, because what that was, it was just there, but you could see a couple of things in the corner of the screen in that leak, which
like
is
palm leaves, right?
Palm leaves, and I could also hear like just beach ambience as well, which But you think, is that like some kind of wave pool or something? I don't think so, but still, it was weird. You could hear like waves crashing.
I mean, there definitely is a summer event. It's just weird that it hasn't been leaked. It's just really weird. But I feel like they need to. They obviously they have temporary content, like how, if we get Oktoberfest again, or if we don't, that's even more temporary. The best worst beer, but seriously, that steel drum needs to be in the game all the time, right? Doesn't have to be as prominent as where it's probably going to be now. But if there isn't a steel drum in like the basement little area, or just somewhere in the top of the rig,
then you could even like get it out and like move it around. Probably that should be a thing as well.
Fully playable steel drum, right?
Yeah,
people will literally sit in the lobby and learn how to play it like a real instrument.
You should even have four of them, like in like, so that everyone can have. Obviously, you could play the same one at the same time, but you could all have your own ones, and then because it'd be quite hard on console especially. But you could have like everyone could at least have like 2 notes or something that they go between, and then you could have something. You could make something. I don't know what we would do. We make the Barrow Vision theme that way. The Barrow Vision theme, I just realised it's just that fucking snake now. That's all. I am gonna, until we have something, I am genuinely gonna open the show with that sound effect every time.
Alright, I need to find something quick then.
Well, I need to make something because I'm the only one who can play music even slightly.
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless we just feel
James
like
did music, but
what can he do? Make a baby or something? I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't know. But it's just that like that is too cool not to always have in the game. I'm sorry, but like if it was just a steel drum that when you play it, when you tap on it, it plays a generic soundtrack or like a generic like couple things like the harp in Hades, I'd be fine with that being a temporary thing. But a fully playable instrument would be a monumental addition to the hub. Like the rig.
Yeah, and it's like, it sounds trivial, but it won't, and it will probably always be sort of trivial, but it won't be when it comes to the point when it goes away, or if it goes away, and then people will, like,
I think,
I don't know if right is the right word. Well, the problem I don't know if I can call it a problem yet, but the problem I would have is that would confirm to me that they are, actually, I'm not going to say that. But it would be a very annoying realization that for so many things we have to like ask for to come back.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the right.
I'm sorry.
That's the kind of thing they should be able to. They just should be able to see that people would want that to stay. As in, it's like it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter how temporary you see it. They need to understand it's just like that's only gonna be a nice thing to keep around. It's like you do not need to take that away from people, so please don't. So please.
You know the little plateau on like the hangar, like above, like there's a little area where it's like the overlook, and you go up the stairs to the hover booth. Just up there, you just put it up there, right? Like it's not down in the area, but it's still there for people that spent time learning how to play it on here. First of all, but also because I don't know, I just really want to like have people join the game, someone run up there and then just play a song, like an actual song, like a song they learned how to play. Like that would be sick if it like plays through the whole like rig, like that kind of experience.
The thing is, they probably view it as something like the snowball piles or like the firecrackers which I actually like the firecrackers when I think about it, and it's like I think it's not only is it cut above that, but at the same time, all of that bundled together to me begs for like some kind of like holiday supplies like closet or something, where you could grab like a box of firecrackers and bring them out if you wanted to.
Well, it would be like a really cool like little vault mini game where there's like 2 buttons or maybe just a button, like kind of far away. You have to press, and then a timer starts, and you have to run in and out with whatever thing you like want in there. Essentially,
you could even have like the inflatables and stuff as well. Then it's just like grab what you want.
Maybe not. You'll be let out when you want. There'll be a button inside, but you have to run in there within like 5 or 10 seconds, depending on how far away it is, just to get in there and like play around with all the stuff in there. Something like that would be really fun. And then obviously you'd get in there, because this could still be a fine way of adding it. You'd get in there and then you'd start playing on the steel drum while someone else does something, like probably get into the actual lobby. I don't know. I think it is. I genuinely like I think this probably stems from Sea of Thieves. Genuinely, the best thing about Sea of Thieves is the musical instruments, and you can't even technically play it on your own, but you can it's just amazing, right? And I think this game would greatly benefit
Art
from the
class.
camaraderie of playing music together, essentially, and this
Yeah.
is a step towards that direction.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why it's very reasonable to harp on this, even if, like, I wouldn't blame someone for calling this trivial, but if you just think about Deep Rock, these are the kinds of things that give it life, I think, because the events, in my opinion, don't do a huge amount. As in, they give, in my opinion, what the holiday events do is they give the game a flavor, or they change the flavor for a little bit. But they're also not the kind of thing, in my opinion, that actually brings people back, which is why I think it's very reasonable to take something like the Steel Drum, which would be a very, very minor but still impactful permanent edition, and have it be a permanent edition, because I don't think the holiday events isolated truly do like a lot, but that doesn't, that almost sounds like a case for like, oh, keep something like the Steel Drum to make the event in those events to make them more valuable. But it's still like, no, I think you need to accept that the holiday events can't do that much. So take these things that they do add that are good and make them permanent. You can have them on the. I think the holidays it is different. It is different.
Like literally, like the way I see it, like it would be like giving you like having jumpy boots this season, and then they take it away next season.
Yeah.
Right. It feels like that. It feels like something that you would invest your time and energy into valuing and like enjoying, and like so you can beat other people in it, and you
Sorry,
can
hold
do
on. I got a bit. Hold on, I got a bit confused there. So you don't mean jet boots. You don't mean jet boots.
Not the mini game, but just the machine, the arcade machine. If
Yeah,
they
the arcade
remove the
machine.
arcade machine next season,
Yeah.
it would be like something like that. It would be this piece of content that you can like, and this is the difference, right? Is you are not investing in drinking a best worst or throwing around snowballs, right? But you can legitimately invest in learning how to play that steel
You
drum
can.
and
I can't deny
actually play a song on it, right? And because of that, it is content that would be cruel to take away. Genuinely, it would be anti-player to take that away completely.
Because it's like it's a similar edition to me, like the Jetty Boot arcade machine, which I actually think is such a. Not that I'm on it all the time, but I do genuinely think it's an underrated edition of season 4. Not just because of like it's like a kind of not terrible thing to do with just like time between missions and whatnot, but just because it adds to one of the best things about the game, but certainly the best thing about the space rig is that over time it's becoming a more it's becoming a place that you can actually reside in for longer than you might think.
It's like an open world. Like it's small little area. There's so many things to do.
Yeah.
Like it's like getting there at the very least. And I feel like if there was a playable steel drum and like the top hanger, along with the jetty boots being up there, that was also not jetty. The jet boots being up there was pretty surprising, right? The fact that they put the jet boots in the rig and they kind of hid it way up there is pretty cool.
Like the space rig becoming more and more over time a place that you can spend more and more time in somehow is a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Somehow, once again, somehow a good thing. I don't quite know why it's a good thing. Probably because it, might have just something to do with it could just help extend sessions for people in a way. So certainly help keep people occupied when they can't start a mission, perhaps. Also, maybe you're just doing something like waiting for the rotation to change. It's a very simple one. Maybe there's 10 minutes. Now 10 minutes is not that hard to waste, almost.
Yeah.
I think it is a place where the dwarves would waste time. Therefore, I think it's very good that we can waste time there as well. And the more stuff they can get in through any means, the permanent additions do not have to come from updates, especially in this time. You know what I mean? Which is a bit of a more down way to look at it, but I think people would appreciate a lasting addition from something between seasons, genuinely.
Yeah. And then maybe, if you did want to kind of change things up during the summer one, there could always be one drum, but summer could bring 4, like you said. And then that could be like a thing that during the summer holidays, your dwarves can get together and play a huge whole thing. but you could still play during the normal stuff if you wanted it to still be all special. But ultimately, I don't know. I think I look forward to playing it. I don't think I will master it, but I would try and play some sort of tune for sure. I think you'll be the same, right, Harry? Yeah.
I'll play One Punch Man.
I probably do that actually.
This is a horrible confession. Not that I ever made a big point about the fact that I can play the One Punch Man theme, but the problem is I can't anymore. I just can't. I've lost it.
Just forgotten it.
Yeah. I'm so fucking angry.
Like one secret skill that you prided yourself of has just fell between your fingers.
Yeah, I can still play those notes, but I can't play the whole thing anymore, and it's really sad. It's really sad.
Well, at least I used
to be able to play Country Roads. That's the thing. I can't do that anymore at all. Damn. Can we get a keyboard in the rig as well then? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. You bring it back once every year. By the time the next year comes around, anyone that did try and learn it is gone from their memory. So there's no point. Essentially, if it's only a temporary thing, there's no point in engaging in it really as like an actual anything, which I think is just a waste of everyone's time if they do that. So I don't know. Point is, I look forward to the summer holiday whenever that's going to occur. Maybe in autumn.
No. It'll be in August, which is still summer. Okay.
Yeah. They have a month to slip it in, and if it's the original length, then it's going to be like the whole month, really, right? 3 months out of 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks of August.
Yeah.
Or they might shrink it down to a normal summer size. Or not summer size, normal event size. Yeah. Else? Is that have you got else?
Yes, we do have else. We do have other. We do have other than or what other synonyms? Synonyms, is that the right word? I don't know.
And
as well as we have an and another and comes from our favourite person in the world, Jacob. This is why I landed on the theme of inside information, basically. Although we've been able to sort of cover a lot of weird ground with that, with what we just talked about, and the GTA thing and weird things like that. But this is basically what changed the topic of this podcast from what it was going to be to what it is now. As in, this is like the final. I wouldn't call this the main course, because I think we just had the main course. The main course is made up of a couple of different things. But this is definitely dessert. As in
the dessert you were looking forward to almost as much as the main course.
Hopefully. As in, it's the closest thing we have to news right now. So it actually comes from a very strange rant post, which I'm not going to read because I think we should take a look at it ourselves because it's really funny. But the problem is, it's funny because it's not.
We haven't done a Reddit review in so long.
Yeah, but that's because, Tyler, that's because you vetoed the it being a regular series out of existence.
Doesn't mean we never do it.
No, you don't. But we need a reason to do it.
I think if we can't be asked to do a podcast, it should be a Thursday day, not a Saturday. Saturday's got enough.
Absolutely good idea. That's absolutely fair. Yeah. Saturday does have enough. So yeah, the original comment that this came from, I'm not gonna read now because it's very weird and kind of not very palatable. Like, just for an example, the guy has some really weird complaints about how he doesn't even explain that he's referring to the cleaning mechanics, but he refers to the cleaning mechanics as playing a maid simulator, and how it really frustrates him that with he's got into this weird headspace where he can't understand. Like, it's almost like he's role playing as a dwarf, but it's like he's also his real opinions where it's just like, why are we cleaning? We're supposed to be killing bugs or whatever, and it's just really strange sort of
kind of child that you really can't value.
Yeah, really childlike takes with really childlike reasoning, but also I don't know. It just felt
Just
very
dumb,
immature.
I'm sorry, but even if that's the case, you mine, which is a laborious, tedious process that you know, yeah, it's not valid. It's not valid. Moving on.
But what it inspired was from Jacob was a very straightforward list of points. I guess I don't really have they're not all like I wouldn't know how to categorize the whole thing. His comment, but you know, it's just a list of interesting points that refer to parts of development and what's going on with certain things. And we're just gonna go for it one at a time. I don't know what about this this post made him say this stuff, because it's not really the kind of thing, like it's the kind of thing that you'd get. I don't know, maybe it makes sense. The problem is, like, I don't want to read the post, and I'm obviously not going to, because we can get enough out of what Jacob said. So, and it's also, this was 3 days ago, by the way, and you know, Jacob is like everyone else, he's on break, but at the same time he kind of, you know,
I want to make or see a post saying, you know, hey Jacob, you're supposed to be on break. Why are you still here? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, his first point is, well, what he says leading into it is, I'm just going to go over this fast since I'm on leave currently. Here it goes. First point is, which is probably the one we're not going to talk about, is Rockpox is staying for the season because it's what's happening this season. And I think this is the most relevant one to the actual original post, because the guy was almost calling for Rockpox to be like shoved away like right now. And he's just like, yeah, Rockpox is staying. But then he obviously goes on to say Rockpox will not be staying for a third season other than having some sort of reduced presence akin to the rivals, which... Not that we need... Yeah, I know, but it's like almost like it's some kind of nice just to hear it, them confirming this very tricky thing they're going to have to approach. Just knowing that they are going to approach it, just making sure of that almost. Only because, you know, we've only had one example of them minimizing the seasonal content, and it was with one where it wasn't... We talked about how there's a distinctly different... It's a distinctly different situation with the Rockpox and the way it's implemented in the game. But more so from a lore perspective as well, it's literally just the fact that meteorites come out of this passing comet, and just the fact that that is how it works. It's like, how are you going to reduce that? Especially if the comet is supposedly on a parabolic trajectory, meaning it will eventually leave Hoxie's orbit. It's just like there's reason to believe it's going to be more complicated, so it's very nice to know that they are still going to approach it.
I think I found the simplest approach, because I know we really struggled before. I think they could probably just say that the meteorite has shrank so drastically in size that it can only output such a minimal amount anymore, and that they just ignore the parabolic thing and they just say it's still in the atmosphere. I think that's probably the way they would go about it, I'd say. And it's just spewing less things because it's so like it's thrown away so much already.
I think they can get away with that as long as the word. I don't think the word parabolic has been used in game at all. I don't think.
No, I think it's long since a relic of the roadmap.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like the only reason anyone knows about that still is because we don't stop talking about it. So maybe we could not do that. So yeah, that's fine. And then the next point is going to get... I think this is the main one, actually, I would say. Yeah, this is absolutely the biggest one. How the future seasons will be in regards to content and themes, I can't say. We're pretty set on not doing 2 similar seasons again, but we're not going to guarantee that we won't. Yeah. So, I'm not sure if they ever said, like, after season 3 or whatever, that they weren't... Or I don't know if they said anything in relation to season 4, whether it's before or after season 4's release, about how they didn't necessarily want, how they didn't want to do like a sequel season. I know, but we know that they didn't really plan it either, right?
Yeah, but I think you know, they have had a lot of time to look at the statistics and the feedback from their community, and it's twice in a row. Season 2, season 4, generally hated. Generally not liked. Generally no real player count at all, notably, right? Like,
yeah. Well, hold on. I want to give that some clarity, though, right? Yeah. I do want to give some clarity to that because... Oh, did you say it's 2 and 4?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I still want to give some clarity to that in the sense of, you look at the community, pretty much everyone is still placid, I guess would be the word, with the game. It's just comparative to the response to the updates themselves. I'm not saying they haven't turned they have turned a couple people off, but that's not what we mean by that. These updates haven't made most people hate the game, but they've had a noticeably higher, like more concentrated negative response.
Were liked less.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's what
we
mean.
The game isn't, but the updates were.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, other than obviously us and probably like Axis Chronos and that, people quite like Season 3.
Axis Chronos and Jacob had a bit of an altercation as well, which we're not gonna.
That's where it was gonna
go. No, because I did say when I brought that up though that that's not going to be on the podcast, right? We're not going to go through that on the podcast. It wasn't like an argument, but it was a short like negative altercation between Jacob and Axis Chronos, which is quite. You can look at that if you want. If you go to Reddit, you can go to the dev pages. Like you can go to Jacob's page and find that.
Another niche that this game doesn't have. We could be a drama channel for Deep Rock Galactic.
Are we not?
I guess news is kind of drama, but yeah, but yeah, no. I think continue.
What really?
I don't know. What were you on about? I forgot.
Oh, well, if I could just read the same point again, because we might be done with it. How the future seasons will be in regards to content and themes, I can't say. We're pretty set on not doing 2 similar seasons again, but we're not going to guarantee that we won't. As in, what I said about Season 4 is I don't think they particularly planned before they started working on it that it was going to be a sequel to Season 3. But they weren't against it either. What I'm getting at here is that I think this is what's different about this stance to what it was before is that they really don't want to do that again, rather than them just not planning it and it just happening. Well, right? Yeah. They're more against that happening rather than it just happening by accident and then being okay with it. They're more like, we'd rather not now.
I think going into it, they already kind of knew it wasn't the best idea, right? Season 2 did not really do anything for the fan base. Not many people actively praised it by any means, other than the secondaries, obviously. But I think Season 4, even before it came out and the negative response occurred, it was just kind of a required sin, because I think they thought like what we thought. Rockpox needed more enemies, straight up, needed it. It would have been a terrible addition to continue it. So they basically had to do a part 2.
Yes, but that sort of that almost lends itself to a, I guess, slightly concerning possibility that if they do put their foot down in the sense of making sure that they make seasons that don't need sequels, to do that in a way that justifies them not getting sequels means they're going to get longer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. They're either going to get longer or they're not going to be as... Things are going to be left unfinished, basically. And I think that they can do it with the same rate as they've currently had. Hopefully quicker, as in I hope they can actually get back onto a consistent every 6 months thing. And I think they can if they do the main thing that I still think they need to do, which is accept that the only thing about seasons you have to deliver on every time is just the pass in the tree. You don't need to come up with a new theme. You don't even need a seasonal event necessarily. You just don't. Literally, I think we are pretty agreed upon the idea that seasons if we want them to change direction anyway, it's keep doing seasons, but it's literally it is just approach it like you used to a normal update, except for having the performance pass and cosmetic tree. And that's how you do it. And that's how you get ones that don't need sequels, because we didn't get sequels before, because that's not how they operate it.
And I would also layer on just I feel like at some point we're going to have to really put into a concise point everything we think this game needs most, right? But I think updates like it used to be, with the performance pass also getting spiced up, right? It cannot be the same performance pass each season. It is becoming stale really quick.
I agree with that as well, yes. But what I mean is that the fact that there is one, the presence of a performance pass is the only thing that should be a constant between seasons.
Yeah.
Aside from that, you should be completely free to focus on whatever parts that they think are correct, and then they can theme the season and therefore theme the marketing around the content that they decided to make, rather than trying to decide on a theme and make content for a theme. I mean, we said that before, but I don't mind echoing it because I think that's important.
I think an interesting thing is, at this point in time, on a very genuine note, Deep Rock Galactic is a game that everyone's heard of. I genuinely think at this point in time, it is a game that the average player of games has heard of, which essentially means while it can still radicalize people, join us, rock and stone, right? It kind of doesn't need to sell itself with gimmicky season or content anymore. It doesn't need, there's a whole new rock pox invading the planet. Come join in Deep Rock Galactic now. Because that really only works for, like, I don't know, people that don't know the game, right? That kind of stuff isn't needed anymore. You've got enough players playing that game and enough people that have heard and played it themselves and maybe dropped it to where just making the game better, the word of mouth will be enough marketing.
Exactly, because it's so popular now that I think I want to sort of refer back to what I said about it almost being on this edge between possibly going on a decline or not. And what I mean by that is it's so popular now that the only thing that's going to happen if they keep doing exactly what they're doing is that the narrative is actually going to change to, now everyone knows about this game, and the narrative is going to change to that it's actually becoming less worth playing, which they do not want to face.
As we mentioned before, the narrative as of right now, this game is pejoratively famous for being a good game, second of all, but first of all, having an outstanding community, which whether or not that's true, that doesn't matter. That's what it's known for.
Yeah.
Right? It's the community that gets people talking about this game. It's the community that, spans rock and stone, right? The game needs to kind of keep up with the community, not in I don't know, like posting things constantly, amazing quickly, but just in quality. The game needs to be as good and as worth talking about as the community is doing those things.
Yes,
right?
and the reason why the most common praises, as far as I know, it always refers to the way that it subverts or does what AAA gaming does, but better, right?
Yeah, in a more healthy and nicer way. Right?
Which, in my opinion, shows that they don't need to hang on to those things that strongly, in that what's embraced about Deep Rock is just the fact that not just that it does those things better, but just the fact that it is better, which means I think they are in a position where reverting back to a certain extent to their old way of doing updates would be highly beneficial, as long as they can still call them seasons in some way, because it's just they just need to play into the fact that it's everyone knows about it now, and therefore what they need to focus on is the actual, I guess, the game itself, rather than rather than drawing people in. They don't need to focus on drawing people in anymore.
Enough people are playing it now, right? Where those players telling their friends is better marketing than trying to find brand new people out of nowhere, right? That kind of thing.
Do you think it's fair to say that it's not gonna it's probably not gonna double in a while from where it's at?
Anyone that would play it probably has played it.
It's probably very close to its plateauing in terms of new people, right? Yeah. Which means you need to focus on everyone who's already there,
keeping them there. Yeah. Which I think currently the updates aren't doing. That's the simple fact of the matter, right? Is that a lot of people have stopped playing the game because, I say a lot of people, probably 100 or so each season come out. That season was so volatile that they couldn't stand playing the game. But that's still 400 people, right? like over the couple seasons. And I don't know, it's just I don't know. Yeah, making the game better is the best solution. And I think it's not that difficult to do.
Yeah, and at that point it sounds kind of trivial, but I think a lot of people can agree that these new themes aren't objectively things that are making the game better. The things that everyone agrees are making the game better is all the other stuff, like the new weapons and just new enemies as a concept, but not not the themes themselves, or balance changes and things like that. That's the stuff that everyone agrees upon as making the game better. So that's where we need to go. Especially like that's why I think new biomes is absolutely fair expectation, because we talk about that as something they can so easily build a season around, but it's also just like the community almost has like a formula in its own head of like that's sort of where they go next. It's like, oh, right, probably get a biome next, right? I see a lot of people saying that, and I think I want to do an episode on biomes, but I don't know if I want to do it either. I don't know if I want to do it in response to like a roadmap or something, as in even like whether or not that's a thing or not. Like, for example, do we only want to do an episode on biomes then, because then it can almost be a bingo? I don't know, and that might be a bit too weird to think about right now. I'm only bringing this up because I came across a comment talking about new biomes, and it somehow inspired me to make like 4 really detailed pitches for new biomes. That I just have tucked away now, that I think we're going to use for something as some kind of notes if we ever talk about biomes again, or maybe do a biome bingo if we have to, something like that. Hello. All right, he's muted. Oh, he's back. And he's muted again. All right, I'm probably going to pause it for a while and then we'll move on to the final points. All right, you said there's no reason to stop. Anyway, okay, we've got 2 more points that Jacob gave us. Thank you, Jacob. And that will bring us to a close of the main body discussion. So yeah. Point number 4. We're listening to all the feedback we get, and that will be a factor in future seasons. Decisions will be based on both feedback and data. Obviously, don't need them to say that, but I guess, basic acknowledgement of feedback and data is always a good thing. And by data, we think of numbers, and the very likely fact that Season 4 probably didn't have much to say in terms of numbers, or rather, what it said was that there wasn't many numbers gained, and that's just basically just a reminder that they take that stuff into account. And I don't know, I do want to see some kind of recognition of that in this, not in like a, I've talked about how I think they are actually allergic to like saying things that aren't at least neutral, but they've done like looking at the game's stats before as like a Steam post. I want to see that again, and I do want to see it acknowledge whether or not Season 4 was a slump of some kind. Because from what I remember, I think the original looking at stats thing did for Season 2. I don't remember. Quite.
I just need them to just have like, this maybe something for like all seasons, just like Season 4. Here's our thoughts, or Season 4 a review, and where they go into Season 4, they look at like the analytics and the community feedback, and they're like, here's the bits we like, here's the bits we don't like, here's the bits that we change, here's the bits that we think we're going to bolster, like what we liked and we want to work more on, like maybe the jetty boots. They thought that it was received well, we enjoyed doing it, we're going to do more of those, saying something like that, and saying the Randomizer, we're probably not going to add any more beers, but we felt like the game needed something like that in it. Just something like that overall. They talk about the enemies and like how good or bad people are receiving them, whether or not they're going to be looking at changing them or anything. Stuff like that. Just vocally talking about the way that they think about the game, which is only a slight issue because I know, I'm pretty sure they all think about it quite differently, right? They're all very opinionated about the game and have very different opinions. Like there was that one guy that really wanted power-ups like for ages, and I guess no one else really cared for it. With the whole overclock grind, right? They talked about how like on the Destiny, obviously, because they don't actually make an open post about it. They talked about how the team was like split down the middle about whether or not they should improve the overclock grind and add more options and stuff like that. So they are a group of very differently opinioned people, which might be the only issue with them trying and come up with a consensus for the team as a whole in a post like that. But ultimately, I think them whittling down the majority of what the team thinks about the majority of things is better than complete silence, which obviously it's been, they're on holiday, fair enough, but when they come back, they could do that.
Right? Yeah, this is the problem I have. It's like it's not unreasonable to feel like that when they come back, it's not gonna feel like they're back just because they're back. Is what I'm saying. I mean, they have to do something to do that. It only ever feels like they're there when they put out something of note.
Which is why I think we might be looking at the summer holiday as soon as they get back, just to say hello, we're back. Summer holiday.
Absolutely, that's absolutely first of all reasonable to expect. And then
they can be like, we just had our summer holiday, now you have yours. And
yay! Woo! Woo! Excellent. That's exactly what we want. Sure. I just noticed what's going on in the Reddit right now is it's just non-stop r/place discussions.
Back. Yeah, the place is back, which means the Reddit's just going to be that for the next however long that lasts, couple weeks, right?
I don't even know what it is really. I don't even know.
It's just a Reddit which connects to a website, I'm pretty sure, where you go on there and then you click on a tile and then you choose your color. And if that tile, whatever color it gets the most picked, it becomes that color. And essentially, you then organize with your Reddit communities often to create an image with those votes. So the more votes, the more voting power you have, the more members you have, the more you can, the bigger your image can be, and the more area it can take up.
That sounds like a pain in the arse. Let's get Boundvision in there.
We could probably maybe not even get a single square. If we were like, we want this square to be orange, right? We probably couldn't pull that off, I don't think, because a lot of people used it. I mean, last year it blew up, didn't it? Right? Every Reddit, everyone was talking about it. It was a whole thing, and now it's back essentially. But yeah, that's going to be all the Reddit's going to be for a while. Is updates on that.
Yeah. Anyway, we are going to draw this to a close with Jacob's final point, which is a bit more actually related to the guy's original post, which is actually fine. It's not in any specific way. It still would very much so works as a potential springboard. It says, that said in reference to the previous point, I'll just throw in a disclaimer saying that developing a game with community feedback does not make it a democratic process. And ultimately, we're making the game that we want to make. We'll not be able to make everyone happy. That is the risk of making content for an already established gameplay loop. So the thing about the democratic process is obviously true. And it's not. They've been voting before though, and I know it's not exactly what he's referring to, but at the same time, I guess I don't know if I should take this as some kind of implication that they are developing a bit more independently than they used to. I don't know if that's fair to say. Because the reason why I've said that before, because of the game getting bigger, it makes sense to not try as hard to take in what people are saying, if you know what I mean, because it's just too much to filter through, too many different opinions, where it becomes harder to be community focused when your game gets so big.
What it feels to me is that they're basically saying, we have always been making our game. Just up until now, you have always been saying the same thing we've been thinking. It feels like that's been more the case. That it's just now with the huge horde of people, with the huge differing of opinions, the people that got them, right? Early Deep Rock players got Deep Rock. You know what I mean? They knew what the game needed. They knew what kind of game they were playing, and so did Ghost Ship and that, right? They're on the same wavelength. But now people are hopping on. They're seeing a game that's already essentially done, and the path is unclear. Even the people that did play back then, the path is very unclear. Which, I mean, same for us, same with probably other YouTubers, right? We do not know where the game is going to go. And what it's felt like is that Ghost Ship doesn't know either, which I think there is definitely a part of that. The last, two seasons, clearly they kind of regret doing that. Not regret doing it, but they know they're not going to do it again.
This is maybe the main thing I wanted to focus on with the point that you made about how... Hold on, let me make sure I'm getting exactly right. About how ultimately we're making the game that we want to make. I don't always get that impression. In fact, I would say that maybe even more often than not, I don't get that impression. There is still a noticeable amount of bending the knee, and not that it's a bad thing, right? I think the examples of that, the big examples like Small Meteor and the promotion bug fix, or the promotion bug reintegration, are good things, but at the same time, they talk about them getting carried away, and then the fact that they didn't actually quite want to do, or they didn't quite plan to do a sequel season again, and they don't want to. It's just that doesn't sound like you're doing exactly what you want to do.
I think you're mixing up the term game with content, right? They obviously, well, first of all, I don't think it was any real bending of the knee adding small meteor. I think if anything, they found that as a very easy like since first this small meteor, it wasn't just a gimmick, right? They realized something either then or before then that they need to add like a meteorite event that can always occur, essentially, right? Even in a thingy, like it's just that was something they realized that they shouldn't really have an event that can't occur. Is what they thought of, and then small meteor occurred, or that probably both vice versa. They're like, how do we add small meteor? Maybe it's just always a thing because we kind of should have that, right? Something like that, right? There was a gameplay implement reason for it, not just because the community wanted it, but two birds, one stone. Community loves you, and you added that thing that you think makes the game better, right? Boom, right? Job done. But I don't know. I think yeah, these seasons didn't go exactly how they planned it to go, but they added what they wanted to add. They just realized later on that maybe it's not the best thing to add. Like maybe the team is starting to be like, the game is beginning to bloat a little bit. We got these weird bubbles. I mean, Rotpox, I think part one, it necessitated a part two because of how little enemies they could actually add during that. Maybe that kind of annoyed them. I feel like they probably have been struggling with these seasons, and with the community feedback coming back from it. Like, obviously, it's the game they want to make, but they want that game to be liked and loved by the players that play it. Do they not? Right? Like, if they only cared about their game, they probably wouldn't have such a passionate audience that loves their game so much. It's the fact that their game is, it's the game they want to make, but the game they want to make is the game that people love, right? And I don't know, maybe they've made some missteps, but ultimately I think they know enough about what people love to stop doing part twos at the very least, right? And that they themselves caught on, and like maybe they straight up don't want to do it either. If anything, because of numbers. Maybe the game they want to make is a game that sells, and part two seasons do not sell, right? That's something we saw once, and I would imagine see again. I can't imagine a spike coming from this season in sales. Might be, but not a big one. So yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. It is interesting. It is just ultimately him saying that we do listen to you, but that doesn't mean we're going to make your game, right? I think it just feels like it's him saying that like we value your opinion, but that doesn't mean your opinion is valuable. Maybe it's a power stance, I would definitely say. Jacob,
no, I mean I agree. I agree with what you said, but I mean I still wish that I felt like they had a stronger direction, because they don't have a particular direction. So it's very fair to say that.
And I think that is fair to say, considering that like we don't want to do any part two seasons anymore, implying that they know the last 4 seasons they've done was a bit of a mistake.
Well, like I agree with them that they should be making the game that they want to make, but I reckon that they wouldn't have an answer if you asked them what that game is.
Well, they improv it every season.
Exactly,
right? Like,
and if that's what they want, then that's fine, as well. But that's the thing, we don't quite know, and I don't know if this is the kind of thing that we necessarily have the right to know. Exactly, we don't have the right to know everything.
Respond to that and ask him. So, what is the game you want to make?
Maybe I should. Maybe I should. And with that, that draws this to a close, because I am dying. I'm actually not. I don't know. But I think we're probably done. So that's all it is.
Yeah, very done.
Yeah. That's it. Oh God, how do we end this again? Maybe we should apologise for there not being one last week. Oh, I've done it. All right, okay. Thank you for watching / listening to the Bad Vision podcast. If you enjoy, please make sure to like, subscribe, and if you like podcasts and if you like Deep Rock, then you should probably hit the notification bell. But don't, unless you don't like other content.
This is when we would tell you our members, if we had any.
That's right. The Bad Vision podcast is sponsored by no one. Sponsored by at the moment. I guess not even us. Not like we're putting money towards it, but I will reiterate though, we are not expecting people to become members. We're just pointing out the fact that option is available. That's it. I'm gonna leave it at that. That's all I'm gonna say on that. Please give us money. Okay. And give us ideas for how to make money.
Edit our videos as well. And
edit our videos.
And voice our podcasts and yeah. Thank you all. Goodbye.
Say goodbye. Harry.
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye, Harry.
Oh.
Goodbye, Harry.
Goodbye, Harry.
Goodbye, Harry. Goodbye, everyone. Take care. Mwah!